That's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, now redubbed by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Now, with this particular thing I'm talking about, even if you aren't really an Expanded Universe fan, this would still be a really cool book to get. The Jedi Path. What is it? I can see why it would annoy some people. It is basically just an in-universe book. Like, imagine you're in school, you're reading a history book. There you go. This is something that the Jedi would have had access to. So with that, we get notes from Anakin Skywalker. We have notes from Mace Windu. We have notes from Dooku. We have notes from Yoda. We have notes from Luke after the fact. And we have notes from Sidious, because the thing is that people would check this out at the library, check it out, because it's a good way of helping you understand the prequel era Jedi, especially. And the Jedi of old in the Old Republic, like during the Tales of the Jedi era and everything. It's a good fundamental understanding of the Jedi Order at the time of the prequel era, at least, and all the things that came before. So of course you have Dooku, you have Qui-Gon all talking in it, right? You have Yoda talking in it. You know, we do have stuff by Sidious as well, but that's because after the fall of the Republic, you know, at the end of Episode 3, Sidious had access to the libraries. Now, is it a little contrived that Sidious would be so petty as to go through the entire Jedi Path book and then scribble his feelings and opinions in there? A little bit. But let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the same man who in the X-Wing books we learned would go down to the museum that had Jedi in it and would just, when he got pissed off or when he wanted to feel good, would slice off random Jedi statues' heads. Same guy. Biological weapons, weapons of mass destruction, towers in his name. Is it a little contrived for the sake of the way this book works? Yes. Is it completely in character for Sidious to do so? Yes. And then, of course, we have notes by Luke, because once, you know, the New Republic finally had access to, you know, the Coruscant again, Luke eventually, we don't know when, because no story really talks about it, but he got access to this book. Now, I would say this has to happen either during Young Jedi Knights or before New Jedi Order, during that 6-month gap, because as we see, I mean, people rag on Darkness and Legacy of the Force for bringing up prequel references, but even by the time of New Jedi Order, I think the first movie of the prequel era, Phantom Menace, had come out, so at that point, they were trying to change some things. Like, now, Jaina's like the apprentice to Mara Jade, and Jason Solo's the apprentice to Luke Skywalker, when that's not how the Jedi Academy really worked before that. So I think, you know, the way you would do that while reading this in chronological order is that Luke read this book and kind of tried to, you know, because there's stuff he critiques about the Jedi of old, and there's stuff he's like, maybe I should implement that. So now that, you know, he has a bunch of Jedi Knights running around, why not, you know, Jason is still a little bit younger, why don't we have him be my apprentice, you know, and do that with a couple of the younger students, you know, and try to see how that works, you know. So I think that works. But yeah, there's a lot of, you know, information in here about the Jedi Order and how that works, especially during the time of the prequels. And there's a lot of, you know, notes by Anakin Skywalker being like, why does it have to be like this? You got Luke talking about, oh, what they did right and the things that they did wrong and things that he's not going to do in his Jedi Order. And those are nice little additions. Again, why did all these people decide to scribble in a history book? I don't know, but I don't mind it necessarily. I get the point of the story. It's a cool little niche thing. If you hate Ahsoka, I'm not the biggest fan, but, you know, she does make little quips here and there, like, because she read the book too, so she does a little, ah, ha, 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 funny, ha, you know, whatever. It doesn't upset me that much. And if you like Ahsoka, you might actually enjoy those little quippy things. But this is, it's extremely full of expanded universe connections. A lot of things get mentioned that are specifically expanded universe, and this came out either like right after the buyout or a little bit before the buyout. I think like 2013. I'm thinking. But there's a lot of EU connections here. It doesn't reference anything from new canon, so you don't have to worry about that. It's purely like legends, lore, and stuff like that, which is really cool. Um, but yeah, it's not a story or anything. It is just like a history book and a guidebook to being a Jedi, especially in the time of the prequel era. Though of course it talks about Jedi before the prequel era. And then the cool thing is getting to see all these different perspectives that because they all decided to, I guess, graffiti. I'm assuming Yoda made this an acceptable thing to do because he would have been the first one to do it. So I guess everyone else is like, well, if Yoda's going to do it, he's the Grandmaster, we're all going to do it too. And Luke's like, I'm literally the only Grandmaster, so I can do what the hell I want now. So there's that. But it's not a story or anything. The story is in kind of compiling the timeline of who wrote this when. Even Kenobi has a couple lines in there, like from when he was a Padawan to, Qui-Gon, which would have been Jedi Apprentice at some point. And all that stuff. And Luke even commenting on Obi-Wan Kenobi's comments as a Padawan, writing down stuff in that book, being like, I didn't realize he was a lot like me when he was younger, stuff like that. So a lot of cool little neat things. Do you need this to know the overall story of the expanded universe? Will it affect your understanding at all? No, it's more of an in-universe source book that helps you understand some things about the world and everything. I'll just mention some of the cool things I noticed, though, which is we have the Chosen One. There's a section of the Jedi Path book which is called the Chosen One. You can't really see that, but you can see in like the little margin, like Chosen One. But the thing is, all the pages on the Chosen One have been ripped out. Because when Palpatine got a hold of this book, he read the whole thing when he had his new empire, and he ripped out the pages on the Chosen One. So Luke, it's pretty obvious that it was most likely Sidious, but we only have Luke speculating that it was Sidious who ripped that out, and so he has no way of accessing what that had to say. It's also a clever way of not messing with our interpretations or opinions, or George Lucas's opinions on that particular topic, because it's not even addressed, because it's ripped out. So, there's a nice little quip that Qui-Gon makes when there's a specific part talking about lightsaber techniques and stuff like that. And one of the stuff it mentions is lightsabers and melting metal to, cut open a door or something. And Qui-Gon just quickly says, fascinating. Because it's exactly what he would do later on in Episode 1 on the Trade Federation ship. There is a Shidu mention, which is really cool. Those are the shapeshifters from Galaxy of Fear. So it's really cool to get a reference there to that. And then the only other thing I really have of note, there's a lot of little interesting things that Dooku and other people say in here, if you check it out. But when Luke is looking over the section that talks about Jedi classes, he says that Kyle Katarn, and Cam Solusar would be great Jedi Sentinels. So I thought that was really fun. But that's pretty much it. The Jedi Path book is not necessary to your understanding. And if you're like Matt Wilkins, it might annoy you a bit. But I think it's overall a really cool little neat thing. It's nothing you exactly need, but it does have expanded universe connections, therefore is an expanded universe book, and I do think it is worth checking out. Even to just see like Luke's like thoughts and opinions about the Jedi of old, because especially if you're like me and you grew up with the prequels, one of the things I always loved, which I know kind of pisses off Matt, because every time it happens in the EU, he kind of is negative about it, but I like when the EU references the prequels, or like when OT characters get to learn about the prequels. I like that, because that's what the expanded universe did, right? Like, the Bantam era, had it not been like, because George Lucas said, you can't talk about the prequels, you can't talk about Vader before he became Vader. Ever. So they never addressed it. They never addressed Luke Skywalker's mom. There was the Black Fleet crisis where we had a lady saying, oh, I know your mom is, but that was a lie. And I always kind of knew that was going to be a lie. Because they weren't allowed to touch that. But if they were given the all ahead, they would have. So it just seems like a natural thing to have Luke finally start to learn things about the prequels and things about the Jedi of old. And I think that works really well. It's really cool to see OT characters deal with things moving forward like that. So overall, I think it's worth your time. I think it's a lot of fun. Can it be a little pricey? It can be. But I do think it's worth your time. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're newer to the EU. It has a lot of things that will be referenced later on, so that could be really cool for you. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Sharing up a ton. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.